Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire, everybody. Now, the further north you go into the East Riding, the more it feels like you're in parts of North Yorkshire. Well, this is on the border with North Yorkshire, and it's certainly got that North Yorkshire type feel to it. You feel like you're in Rydale. You're actually in the parish of Kirby Underdale. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to the parish of Kirby Underdale, which sits just to the north of the A166 in the East Riding of Yorkshire, close to the county border with North Yorkshire. It's formed of 4 settlements, all of which are tiny: Painsthorpe, Uncleby, Garabee, and of course Kirby Underdale. They might be small, but they've each got their highlights. All 4 sit in an area of the High Wolds. In fact, Garrowby Hill, which is located on the southern parish boundary with Bishop Wilton, is the highest point anywhere on the Wolds. Between them, they don't have a lot of amenities. There's just the one church, which is in Kirby Underdale itself, but there's no shops or any other kind of businesses out here. What you will find, though, is lots of history. A lot of this area was and still is owned by the Garrowby Estate, which we touched on last week in Bugthorpe. Painsthorpe once had an abbey, whilst Uncleby once had a school. The whole area is flanked by a Roman road which runs south to the site of a plane crash in World War II, commemorated by a roadside memorial. There's a couple of rare landmarks out here as well, including a type of phone box we've never ever seen before on this channel. Above all else, this part of the East Riding is much more about the views across the stunning scenery from the tops of its hills, rather than the actual villages themselves. I loved this one for many, many reasons. So there's plenty here. Let's go and check it all out, shall we? Beginning on Painsthorpe Lane in Kirby Underdale, this building is an old school, which was built by Viscount Halifax and once catered for 70 children. It later became the village hall. Over the road we've got the old red phone box, which stands in front of what was Kirby Underdale's former post office, which is now a house. Next is the parish notice board, because even the smallest places need to keep the locals informed of happenings. Mark it off, guys, 107 down in the East Riding. Then we've got a war memorial cross within the grounds of what was once a busy joiner's workshop, manned for many generations by members of the Boys family. As the road starts to decline, we find 2 notable buildings. The first is the manor house on the right, hidden away behind these large gates. And the second is the 18th century old rectory, almost directly opposite. Both are Grade 2 listed buildings. Not far away is the Church of All Saints. So once you get past the old rectory, as you might be able to see behind me, the road dips very sharply. That is a very steep downhill gradient. I'm going to drive down there later because I need to cover Painsthorpe, which is also within this one. But before that, I've actually got to walk up that hill because my next job takes me into the churchyard via this little path to the left, and then I'll come round in a loop and back up this hill back to where I started. I'm not looking forward to it. Although partially rebuilt in the latter half of the 19th century, All Saints Church retains many Norman and early medieval features. Situated close to the Hundle Beck, which runs along the edge of its churchyard, only the tower is visible from the village itself, owing to the fact it's at the bottom of a hill. In the porch here we find the remains of an old stone coffin. There's also the base of a cross here too, known as the Stone Chair. It was found in a local field on a hill, which is still known today as Stone Chair Close. All Saints dates originally from the 12th century and is likely to have been erected by St Mary's Abbey in York. The oldest parts of the present church are the lower part of the tower and its nave, both dating from around 1150. The chancel dates from an 1870 restoration by G.E. Street. Behind the church is a Halifax family burial ground, where not only the graves of past earls can be seen, but also those of much-loved servants too. Definitely a pretty little church, this. Very compact as well. There's not much of a nave or a chancel to this. It's very small. The camera probably belies how small it actually looks. It probably looks a lot bigger on camera. But trust me, this is not the biggest church in the world. I'm kind of stood in the middle of the nave here, so if I turn around, you'll see there's the back of the church there. It's only a few pews deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 5 rows of pews deep back to the font, which you can see there, which is just underneath the tower. So yeah, not the biggest of churches in the world, but then again, it doesn't really need to be. It's small and compact and does what it needs to do, just as well as any other religious building, I suppose. Okay, so now we're done with the church. We're going to head back out of it now along the path down towards the bottom of the hill, and now I've got to walk up that hill. When I reach the top of the hill, I'll get back in the car and I'll drive towards Painsthorpe, which is a very small hamlet which has got a couple of notable buildings. I very much doubt, though, I'll be able to see any of them because they're all private. So now we're heading up to Painsthorpe, and as I suspected, you can't see anything. Enjoy these views though as I tell you a bit about it. Painsthorpe's biggest property is Painsthorpe Hall, where the Rear Admiral Charles Richardson once lived. It was also the site of a short-lived modern abbey, a brick-built chapel which was added to the hall in 1902. In 1906, the monks left Yorkshire for Caldy Abbey in Wales. Painsthorpe is just one of the hamlets which fall within the parish. Another is Uncleby. This is the site of an Anglian cemetery where 76 inhumation burials were excavated by Canon William Greenwell in 1868. The graves dated from the 7th and 8th centuries, and objects from these excavations are held in both the Yorkshire Museum and the British Museum. After driving up Uncleby Hill, we arrive on an old Roman road, which is even named Roman Road. If you follow this to the south, you'll eventually end up on Garrowby Hill. And speaking of Garabee, Garabee is the third hamlet within Kirby Underdale's boundaries. It might be small, but it's oh so very important, as by now I'm sure you've gathered. It contains the most important property on the Garrowby Estate, Garrowby Hall, a country house which for over 200 years has been the seat of the Earl and Countess of Halifax. As we learned in the Bugthorpe episode, they're also known as the Wood family. The hall was remodelled in 1980 by Francis Johnson, giving it its current appearance, although it was originally built much earlier. Sir Francis Wood purchased the Garrowby Estate in 1803. It had previously been owned by the Remington family before they left for America. Sir Francis was a wealthy merchant in the East India Company and was attracted by the peacefulness of the East Riding. He used the estate mainly for sporting purposes. Smaller acquisitions have followed over the 100 years or so after, and the Garrowby Estate now extends to 13,230 acres. So it was never my intention really to stop on this road, but then I looked to my right and thought, well, I'd better, because I can't let this view go unrecorded now, can I? Would you look at that? The beautiful Yorkshire Walls in all the glory, and Kirby Underdale is somewhere down there. Aren't you lucky, Kirby Underdalers, to live in such a beautiful part of the country? Okay, I've got one more thing to cover here in the parish of Kirby Underdale, and that is the Garrowby Hill Memorial, which you can find on the A166. If I keep following this Roman road, I'll come straight to it. So let's go and check it out. And here we are, the Garrowby Hill Memorial. It's not that far away from where I took that last shot. It commemorates a plane crash. So at this place on the 7th of February 1944 at 10 AM, Halifax bomber DK-192 from RAF Ruffeth crashed in 10/10 cloud during a training flight. All on board and the driver of a milk lorry who was passing along this road were killed. And underneath you've got all the members of the crew and also the truck driver, Arthur Wood Kirkby of Hull, aged 39. And this was erected by their comrade Alan Emlyn Jones, and it says we will remember them at the bottom. There you go, the Garrowby Hill Memorial. And that should have been that. However, Garrowby Hill has a couple more things I can mention. The summit of Garrowby Hill is also the summit of Bishop Wilton Wold, which is the highest point of anywhere on the Yorkshire Walls. It was even the subject of a 1998 painting by that man again, David Hockney. As you head downhill along the A166 or Garabee Street here, you're treated to some fantastic views. And at the bottom, there's something extremely rare. And that would be this. If you don't know what this is, it's an old AA phone box and it contains an emergency telephone. At one time, they were quite common. AA members had a key to open them, keys which allegedly worked on RAC boxes too. There are only 19 of these left in the country. That's just 2% of how many there used to be. You can find this one, box 573, next to Garabee Lodge, right on the border between Bishop Wilton and Kirby Underdale. What a fabulous find. So this just goes to prove that you never know what you're going to find when you come to a place. You can make all the plans in the world, but sometimes you find something unexpected, and that was definitely in that category. I was on my way into York. So yeah, that was a little bit of a bonus. That's been the parish of Kirby Underdale. I do hope you like it. It's a beautiful little place. It's well and truly one of the prettiest villages in the East Riding of Yorkshire. I've loved my time here, and it's full of these little hidden gems apparently as well. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.